I'd like to call this meeting of the Santa Fe County Planning Commission to order for February 15th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Here. Here.
Here.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We don't have introduction of new members. We have Mr. Dan Pava from last time and Wendy Piard, new member or continuing member. Approval of the agenda. Do we have any tables or withdrawn items? Jose?
Mr. Chair, as listed in the agenda, case number 23-5200 is tabled for this meeting.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of November 16th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Yeah, I'll motion to approve the minutes from the meeting on November 16th, 2023.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Do we have a vote on it? Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We have the minutes for December 21st, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the minutes of December 21st, 2023.
And I'll second.
Thank you. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And we have the minutes for January 18th, 2024 regular meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll motion to approve the minutes of January 18th, 2024.
I'll second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We don't have any old business. We have new business. Case number 23-5260, Mark and Nancy Dutenhofer, conditional use permit. Is that Maggie Valdez? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Planning Commission. My name is Maggie Valdez. I'm a Development Review Specialist Senior. Today I come to you before with case number 23-5260, Mark and Nancy Duffenhofer. Applicants request approval of a conditional use permit to allow a 2,040 square foot hoop style cold frame commercial greenhouse for the purpose of producing cannabis. Section 10.22.3.3 of the Sustainable Land Development Code, as amended by Ordinance 2021-03, hereinafter SLDC, provides that a cannabis producer or cannabis producer microbusiness that cultivates cannabis plants indoors shall be treated the same as a commercial greenhouse. The 1.46 acre property is within the traditional community. Zoning District Appendix B of the SLDC illustrates that a commercial greenhouse within the TC Zoning District is a conditional use. The site is located at 11 Lamy Station Trail within Township 15, North Range 10 East, Section 33, SDA-2, Commission District 4. The applicants request approval of a CUP to allow a 2,040 square foot commercial greenhouse for the purpose of producing cannabis. The facility will be located on a 1.46 acre parcel of land. The applicants are required to abide by stringent New Mexico regulation and licensing department RLD regulations pertaining to licensing and operating the facility, including issues such as access, security, and monitoring by RLD. The applicants have obtained a New Mexico cannabis producer microbusiness license, which allows a cannabis producer at a single licensed premises to process no more than 200 total mature cannabis plants at any one time. The applicants state that they are requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow a 2,040 square foot hoop-style cold-frame commercial greenhouse for the purpose of producing cannabis flowers. The 1.46 property is within the traditional community TC zoning. New Mexico legalized adult use marijuana through House Bill 2 on April 12, 2021. As the Cannabis Regulations Act, NMSA 26-2C-1 ETSEQ, the act allows for cannabis possession and consumption for individuals 21 years and older. The Cannabis Control Division is responsible for regulating the adult use marijuana program. Access to cannabis is through state licensed cannabis business. In response to the CUP criteria, the applicants state the following. The applicant has addressed the CUP criteria and staff has responded to the applicant's comments. The applicant has addressed the equitable design standards as required by the SLDCs. Building and development. Services staff has reviewed this project for compliance with the relevant SLDC requirements and has found that the facts presented support the request for a conditional use permit to allow a 2,040 square foot hoop-style cold-frame commercial greenhouse area for the purpose of producing cannabis. The use is compatible with the current development with the affected zoning district. The use will not impact adjacent land uses, and the application satisfies the substantial requirements set forth in SLDC, inclusive of conditional use criteria set forth in Chapter 4, Section 4.9.6.5. The review comments. From the State Historic Preservation Office and county staff have established findings that the application to allow a 2,040 square foot commercial greenhouse to cultivate cannabis plants indoors is in compliance with the state requirements. Standards identified in SLDC Section 10.22, Ordinance 2021-03, and pertinent design standards set forth in the SLDCs. Hearing officer recommendations. On January 11, 2024, this request was presented to the Sustainable Land Development Hearing Officer. The hearing officer memorized findings of the fact and conclusion of law in a recommended order on this request. The hearing officer, based on the evidence presented, recommends that the application be granted subject to the conditions required by staff. The recommended order and minutes of January 11, 2024 hearing are attached as Exhibits 10 and 11. On January 11, 2024, hearing officers hearing, one individual testified in opposition of the request for an outdoor production of cannabis at this site. One other individual spoke in regards to access road on the site. The testimony of these individuals are stated in the minutes recorded on January 31st, 2024, within the Santa Fe County Clerk's Office, Exhibit 10. Recommendation. The recommendation of the hearing officer and staff recommendation is for approval of a conditional use permit to allow a 2,040 square foot hoop-style cold-frame commercial greenhouse for the purpose of producing cannabis indoors, subject to the following conditions. Mr. Chair and Commission, may I enter the conditions into the record?
Yes, you may.
This report and exhibits listed below are hereby submitted as part of the hearing. Mr. Chair and Commission, I stand for questions.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? I do have questions, but mainly for the applicant. So if we don't have any questions of staff, is the applicant here? Please step forward. State your name and address and be sworn in, please.
My name is Park Duttenhofer. I live at 3 Western Overlook in Lamy, New Mexico, 87540. I do. Thank you for seeing me today. I've been a resident of Lamy for 38 years now, and during that time, I've been active in our community. I've been president of the Lamy Community Association, vice president of the Water Board for 20 years, and am currently vice president of the foundation that owns the church building. There's commercial property already in the village. Directly in front of my house is a commercial lot that's owned by Santa Fe Southern Land Holdings. And just one lot over to me on the east is the Legal Tender Restaurant and Saloon, which together with the train station and rail yard, which is right across the street from me, has been a commercial venture since before New Mexico was a state. The greenhouse will not be able to be seen from the road. County Road 33 passes right in front of my house. But you got to go up a hill to my house, and I've got all kinds of trees and stuff. So from the road, there's no way to see the greenhouse. On the east side of my property is a 25-foot tall, what I call a finger ridge. It's not really a hill, it's that it comes down off of the hills, and there's little valleys, drainages in between that blocks my property from anybody who's on the east. On the west, it's the same thing. My property goes up to the top of that ridge, and so only the people that are right on top can see into my backyard. I spoke with the residents that live on Lamy Station Trail, are the ones that are going to be most impacted by this, in that they'll be able to see it when they're driving to and from their homes. And so I've spoken with all of them, except for the new person that just moved in last month. The closest home to me I just spoke with last Saturday, and they said, again, that they are not against my proposal. So they're okay with it. The greenhouse itself will be, this is part of the whole process. It's got, I bought these big giant fans with carbon filters that are so long and that big around. And so the venting coming out of the greenhouse will be filtered and should not have any smell associated with it. My water situation, my legal water, my paper water is from Santa Fe County, the bulk water selling place over there on County Road 14. But I've also got 4,000 square feet of roof area for rainwater collection and a little over 6,000 gallons of storage capacity. So I've calculated that 1 inch of rain will let me collect 2,000 gallons of water. There won't be any traffic to the only traffic to the greenhouse will be the state inspectors, because there's no customers, there's no traffic coming to it. In the fall, I might have 1 or 2 people help me do the harvest, but other than that, it's just going to be me and my wife and my daughter. The lighting situation, like I've stated, is only going to be security lights. The state requires that I have cameras all over the place, but those are all going to be motion activated, so unless something is inside the greenhouse, the lights won't come on, so there'll be no lights at night. My neighbors are happy about that. So what I'm trying to say is there will be no impact, no negative impact on my community. And I'm very much involved in the community, so I wouldn't like it if there was a big impact, even if I was the one doing it. I think that's it.
Thank you. We have questions of the applicant.
Thank you, Chairman.
Rick?
Mr. Duttenhofer, sorry, I had to look up your name. So what do you estimate the water consumption to be during the growing season? Let me just get it straight. So you'll be hauling water in for this operation, either from Highway 14 or the new bulk water station that's up the road at Arroyo Hondo Station, is that right?
That's correct, although I also have spoken to two different contractors that haul water, and I can purchase it for 2 cents a gallon, and if I pay these contractors, it comes up to be about 15 cents a gallon, so I'm going to try to haul it mostly myself.
And what do you estimate your water use to be?
I estimate 1 gallon per plant in the hottest months. So that per day, 1 gallon per plant per day. So that's 200 gallons per day for the month of June and half of July. Up until June, it's not so much, and then after that, it tapers off as well, the amount of water you need.
Okay, and the road that would access this is a county-maintained road, is that correct?
County Road 33, which is called Old Lamy Trail, is paved road. It comes off of Highway 285 and goes to the center of the village. Right when it ends, just past the Legal Tender Restaurant, you turn left on Lamy Station Trail, and that is a private road.
And who maintains that road?
The homeowners that live along that road.
Do you participate in the cost of that maintenance?
I have not as of yet. My home is accessed from the front. I built in the year 2000 a studio for my woodworking, and so I do use that road to go to my woodworking, and I maintain my section of it myself, but the rest of it is, I have not participated in that maintenance yet.
Okay, thanks very much. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other questions? Wendy?
I just had, I might have missed it, but how many, what's the maximum number of plants you are going to have in the greenhouse?
200.
Two, okay, so it's the 200. Thank you.
Mr. Pava?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the applicant, on the site plan, there's shown a storage structure that's existing. Could you elaborate what is the use of the structure, what's inside the structure, and will it be related to the use of the proposed hoop greenhouse?
That structure is currently my studio, and I'm going to quit doing woodworking, and so that's going to become a storage area. The only storage I'll be using in conjunction with the greenhouse will be nutrients and hoses and things like that. The state does not allow you to do anything outside of your secure area in relation to the actual cannabis. The seeds, the plants, everything has to be done inside that secure fence. So there won't be anything going on in the storage area or my studio other than storage.
Thank you. Appreciate the explanation.
I've got a couple of questions. This greenhouse that you're building, who's going to construct it for you?
I'm going to do that myself.
You have that expertise to construct the hoop house? Sometimes they're very complicated and very expensive to do.
I agree, and this one seems pretty simple. I actually purchased it 2 years ago and have helped install, or erect, I think is the right word, one for someone else, so I'm confident that me and 2 other people can put it together.
And who's going to help you there besides your wife and your daughter? You know, it's labor intensive, I think, because I have a garden myself, and
Well, it is definitely labor intensive, and that's why in the harvest time, I'm gonna probably need somebody for a week or 2. But the state also requires that you put in a drip irrigation system to keep water use from being overwhelming. So in reality, I'm just gonna be a water manager for most of the time, making sure the pumps are working, making sure the drippers are working, and it's a maintenance thing once you get it started.
And what kind of cistern do you have for your water supply?
I've got a 3,000-gallon plastic above ground, a 1,500-gallon plastic above ground tanks already, and on each corner of the greenhouse will be a 275-gallon, one of those totes, a square plastic water container to catch the runoff from the greenhouse roof.
And what kind of vehicle do you have to haul water from the bulk station? You know, that's about 15 miles away. It's quite a distance.
It's quite a distance. I'm just going to use my 3/4-ton pickup truck. I've actually got a spare one in case it breaks down. But that's why I've also contracted, or at least spoken to, 2 different people that haul water, one of them of which actually lives in Lamy.
Okay, we talked about the filtration system. The design, do you have a engineered design for that greenhouse?
Only what the company that sells it sent me. It's pretty simple. Basically, it's just pipe, tubes, and they fit into each other. Straight ones get hammered into the ground like a fence post, and then the other ones go on top of it, and it gets screwed together like an erector set.
And have you inquired the Santa Fe County that you need a permit to construct that, and it has to be approved by Construction Industries? Have you gone that far yet?
I've got to do this first.
Okay, well, yes, okay, that's,
Well,
but, you know, it requires an engineered design, and, you know, you have to get a permit from Santa Fe County, and then it has to be approved by Construction Industry. So I'm just letting you know that probably those are the steps. Because I was a builder at one time, and, you know, you have to jump through all the hoops. It's not just saying you're gonna buy a greenhouse and erect it yourself, like you said, but there's a way to get it done.
and I'm perfectly comfortable with being in compliance of anything that you require me to do. I've actually tried to get a business license, but they said that I have to wait until after today to get this approval first.
And are you saying you bought this kit already, this greenhouse kit, or whatever you did? Is that some package that you bought?
Yes, sir.
When did you buy that?
When?
Yes,
I think it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago? Before they approved cannabis operations, or
No, the
No.
day after.
the day after? Okay, well, you know, we talked about the water budget, and you figured that you think you can have 1 gallon a day per plant. Is that realistic?
It is. I've been growing my own personal cannabis plants the last 2 years, and that's what I've come to conclude. In the hottest time of the year, June and half of July, it takes a half gallon in the morning. I'm using a 10-gallon container and drip emitters, and seriously, drips work 10 times better than spraying it with a hose.
Yeah, the other question I have is I have a small greenhouse, and it gets extremely hot in there, and that's not good for the plants. How are you going to be able to adjust the temperature? You know, it goes to 120 degrees or so, then at night it drops down to 40 or 50 degrees. How are you going to control the temperature variations?
The main thing that'll help me is the greenhouse will be covered with shade cloth, which is a black woven netting kind of a thing, 30% shade. And so that will cut down a lot on the heat. Also, the giant fans are going to be pushing out twice as much cubic feet per minute than is required to ventilate the whole building. There'll be some small vents down at the bottom on the sides, and so that'll draw the air through and up through the top and out.
Thank you. Any other questions of the applicant? Eric?
Mr. Chair, so what happens when the plants are ready for harvest? How will you process this for sale?
What I will do, of course, will be cut them down and hang them to dry. That'll have to be done also inside the secure area. So I'll put a blackout room actually inside the greenhouse. And when they're dry, get cut into smaller pieces, put into the plastic containers, and taken to the testing laboratories, and then a retail outlet will be the ones that actually sell it.
So you'll do that processing within the greenhouse, inside some kind of blackout area in the greenhouse?
Correct.
And it will not be hot at that time so that you can work. So, yeah, I'm just concerned. So you have it figured out as to where you are going to process this, and this will comply with the requirements.
That's correct. I wanted to do it inside my studio, the storage room on the plat, but I would have to put the security fence around my whole property if I did that, and of course, get a whole bunch more security cameras. So I'm just gonna do it inside there, and should work. It's worked good for me the last couple of years, just in my 12 plants.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor or against this case, please step forward. Anyone online, Jose?
Mr. Chair, I see no one online wishing to speak on this case.
If that's the case, I will close the public hearing. And what are the wishes of the commission? Mr.
I do have one question.
Dudenhofer, please step forward. One more question.
Yeah,
course.
on the fans that you're installing, how loud are those? Can you, like, hear that on your property? Could you hear those fans off your property?
I'm not sure. I haven't, had them turned on full blast to listen to them. I imagine they're going to be hearable within a couple of 100 feet of the property.
And do they run 24/7, or is it
No,
just
no, no,
during
no.
the day? Just-
Actually, there's a sensor that makes them cut on when it's 80
okay.
degrees, and then cut off when
Oh,
it gets
okay.
under 80 degrees.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. If there's no other questions, no comments from the public, what are the wishes of the commission? If not, I'll make a motion. Case number 235260, Park and Nancy Dudenhofer, conditional use permit. I move to approve.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Approve with conditions? the staff.
Yes, approve with conditions. Okay. Any discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed signify by saying aye. No one opposed. The case passes unanimously. Thank you. And the next case we have is case number 235220. Substantial modification of conditional use permit. Manuel Olivas, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Romano and Associates LLC applicants Jonathan Owen, agent, requests approval of a conditional use permit to allow substantial modification to construct a 120-foot tower and install equipment within a 75-foot by 75-foot leased area. The 40-acre site is within the Rural Zoning District. Table 10-3, wireless communications facility, height limitations by zoning district, allows for a new tower to be 120 feet in height within the Rural Zoning District, Appendix B. Use matrix illustrates that a substantial modification within the Rural Zoning District is a conditional use permit. The site takes access via 1081 NM 344 within Township 11 North, Range 7 East, Section 11, SDA-2, Commission District 3. The applicant is requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow a new 120-foot monopole and installation of the ground equipment within the proposed 75-foot by 75-foot leased area. The 40-acre parcel is zoned rural. Appendix B of the Sustainable Land Development Code states that a substantial modification within the rural zoning district is a conditional use permit. The applicant states the 120-foot tall monopole will allow the deployment of advanced wireless broadband technology and equipment to provide needed enhancement to the coverage and network capacity in the immediate vicinity since it can no longer be served adequately from neighboring sites which are located more than 5 miles away. Effectively, there is no significant wireless infrastructure between I-40 to the south and I-25 to the north. The proposed facility will provide much-needed coverage enhancement and will also allow for multiple users to utilize the same facility to offer their services in this underserved part of Santa Fe County. The applicant has addressed the conditional use criteria, and staff has responded to the applicant's comments. The applicant addressed and staff reviewed for the following applicable design standards as per Chapter 7. On December 10, 2023, this request was presented to the Sustainable Land Development Hearing Officer. The hearing officer memorialized findings of fact and conclusion of law in a recommended order on this request. The hearing officer, based on the evidence presented, recommended approval of a conditional use permit to allow a 120-foot tall communications tower at 1081 NM 344 within Township 11 North, Range 7 East, Section 11, and the Rural Zoning District in Commission District 3. Building and Development Services staff has reviewed this project for compliance with pertinent SLDC requirements and has found that the facts presented support the request for a conditional use permit to construct a monopole 120 feet in height. The facility meets the proposed and intent outlined in Section 10.17.2 of the SLDC. The use structure will not impact adjacent land uses, and the application satisfied the submittal requirements set forth in the SLDC, inclusive of the conditional use criteria set forth in Section 4.9.6.5. The hearing officer and staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit to allow a substantial modification to construct a monopole 120 feet in height within a 75-foot by 75-foot leased area to be located at 1081 NM 344, subject to the following conditions. Mr. Chair, may I enter these conditions into the record?
Yes, you may.
This report and the exhibits listed below are hereby submitted as part of the hearing record. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I stand for any questions.
Any questions of staff?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Eric?
In the SLDC, a communications tower has to fall within the property on it's located. It can't fall on its neighbors. In this situation, the property is a relatively large property, but it's a relatively small leased area. So the leased area, which the applicant controls, the tower can fall outside of that leased area. And so that's still considered the property rather than, and I'm sort of looking at Roger here, rather than, so it's falling outside of area that the applicant controls onto the landowner's property. And I'm just wondering if there's a disconnect there with the amount of area that's leased for this and the height of the tower that's going to be installed on it.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, for all the adjacent properties, there's a 250-foot setback, and also this tower is going to be 120 feet in max height, so the fall zone should be double that.
Right, it's just it's a big lot with a small leased area. If it falls, it goes outside of the leased area, which the applicant controls, onto the landowner's property. I'm just wondering if there's some weirdness in the language here. It's nothing, I don't want to get in the gears here, but that's an inconsistency that I saw. Thanks.
Any other questions? Mr. Pava?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Olivas, do you happen to know if local cell companies will be using the tower? Or who benefits from the establishment of this tower in this location?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, are you referring to the cell carriers that will be available to the cell tower? Can you clarify your question? Can you clarify your question on if you're speaking about the
Yes,
cell
okay.
carriers?
The cell tower will have many antennas. Does this benefit the local users? Are there what I would call dead spots, for example, in the area that this tower will benefit? Why is this tower being put in this location?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, and I believe the applicants here who could probably answer that question better than I can, but yes, they do studies to fill in these dead spots along the highways or so on to place this tower.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the clarification.
If there are no further questions, is the applicant here? State your name and be sworn in, address also.
My name is Jonathan Owen. I'm at 6117 Acacia Street Northwest in Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87120. I do.
Thank you. You have a presentation for us?
I don't really have anything to add to what Mr. Olivas has presented, but everything that we've put together in the packet that's been submitted to the commission. I'm happy to answer any questions, though.
Mr. Eric?
Mr. Chair, I understand that this is essentially a tower that's going to be built on spec, so that it's a tower that will be available to any and all wireless carriers that you are able to. I don't know how that works, but I think I read that T-Mobile is interested in using one of the heights or whatever it is. Can you elaborate on that and also maybe refer to the question with regard to cell coverage in the area?
Yeah, so T-Mobile is the anchor tenant, so they're already on board to co-locate on the tower. It's already been marketed to all of the major carriers, Verizon, AT&T, Dish, Xfinity, and it's available to any wireless carrier to co-locate on. Right now, it could probably handle about 4 major carriers. Other small carriers could co-locate below the RAD centers for the other 4 larger carriers, but it is certainly available to anyone who wishes to co-locate, provided they can get the coverage that they need.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions. Where about is this location? I saw the aerial photograph, but is this out by Galisteo, or where is it? Or
Oh, no.
Madrid, or-
It's just north of I-40, right where the Edgewood exit is. So it's 5 or 6 miles from there, I believe.
Now, is this on a parcel, 40-acre lot that you have, or what's the land around it?
Well, it is a 40-acre parcel. We've leased this land from the property owner, who is actually out of South Dakota, I believe. But, yeah.
And regarding the 40-acre parcel, is this 75 by 75-foot area in the middle of the parcel, or on one side, or where is it located?
It's roughly in the middle, more towards the road than it is towards the back of the property off of 344. But there is substantial clearance on all sides to satisfy all the setback requirements.
Okay, any other questions? If not, this is a public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak for or against, please step forward. Anybody online, Jose?
Mr. Chair, there is no one online wishing to speak on this case.
Okay. What are the wishes of the commission?
I can put a motion.
Okay.
Put a motion. I want to get here with these. I'm motioning on case 235220 for the substantial modification for the conditional use permit. I recommend approving the conditional use permit with the conditions that were recommended by staff.
Thank you. We have a second. Mr. Pava? We have a second. Any discussion? If not, what are the wishes of the commission? Please signify approval by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commission.
We have, the next case is ordinance number 2024. The ordinance revising the Tesuque Community District overlay. And Nathaniel and Brett. Thank you, Nathaniel.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. I'm Nate Crail, Community Planner, and I'm joined by Joseph Scala, another Community Planner. It's his first week on the job, so it's exciting for us to have more staff. So today I'm talking about an ordinance amending Section 9.5 of the SLDC, which amends the Tesuque Community District overlay to revise purpose sections, make minor technical and grammatical changes, to revise the fence and wall standards, to amend dimensional standards for base zoning districts, and to add and amend select use regulations in the use table and base zoning district. So on December 12th, staff received BCC approval to publish title and general summary for an ordinance amending this particular section of the SLDC. And so this constitutes a legislative hearing since it covers an entire community district. And per table 4-1, this ordinance is the following three application types. It's both an SLDC text amendment, it's an overlay zone, and it's also considered a zoning map amendment since changes to the use table constitute a rezoning. The first hearing in front of the SLDC hearing officer occurred on January 11th, and the second hearing in front of you today will be followed by a third and final public hearing at the Board of County Commissioners in March. So in 2022, the Board of County Commissioners adopted the Tesuque Community Plan, the 2022 Community Plan via Resolution 2022-072. Throughout 2022 and 2023, county staff coordinated with the Tesuque Planning Committee to develop the appropriate overlay amendments. These planning committee meetings are always open to anyone in the community. These amendments are based on the intentions and implementation strategies of the 2022 Community Plan in accordance with SLDC Section 2.1.7. The significant revisions to the fence and walls standards were reached by consensus through a mediated fence and walls subcommittee in 2021. Additionally, the Planning Committee discussed commercial cannabis regulations but determined that no cannabis-specific amendments were necessary. In late October 2023 and early November, staff and the Planning Committee had two community meetings to inform the wider Tesuque community meeting and garner additional public input on the proposed amendments. We met all noticing requirements per SLDC Section 4.6.4, and I'll just go through kind of a brief summary of all the different proposed amendments. You can view the red line version in the exhibits. So the first one is revisions of the purpose sections, including the purpose and intent section, and the purpose sections of every base zoning district to reflect updated language from the 2022 plan. Second, the proposed amendments to make minor and technical and grammatical revisions. Third, as stated, revisions of the fence and wall standards to reflect the consensus decision of the Planning Committee's subcommittee. Fourth, amend dimensional standards for base zoning districts, including the increase of the maximum height to the county standard of 24 feet. And fifth, add and amend select use regulations in the use table and base zoning districts, including first, the addition of a new use to the use table, a tap or tasting room. B, removal of use regulations for research and development services and active leisure sports and related activities in all base zoning districts. Next, add use regulations for school or university privately owned, as well as crop production greenhouse in all base zoning districts. Next, removal of use regulations for stable and other equine-related facilities in the residential estate, residential community, and traditional community zoning districts. And then finally, amend the use table zoning classification for the following 16 uses, and you can see that in the memo. And so staff requests approval by the Planning Commission to favorably recommend the proposed ordinance to the Board of County Commissioners, and I stand for any questions about this.
Thank you. Any questions of Nate? Wendy? Your area?
Oh, yeah. I drive through it.
Eric, any questions?
Yes, thank you very much. And Nate, can you describe the public part of the process? If there was broad community involvement in these meetings, if it was just a few folks driving, if, can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, to kind of take a step back from these particular overlay amendments, so this is kind of one of the culminations of our entire community planning process. And so back in 2019, I believe, the Tesuque community via the county recognized community organization, the Tesuque Valley Community Association, they initiated a community planning process, and we worked with the entire community as well as the CEO that represents that community, and that was a multi-year process that was during COVID as well, and we always try our best to advertise on the staff side as well as the community side. So that culminates in the community plan, and then once the community plan is passed by resolution, then we, begin the overlay amendments process. And in this case, the fence and wall was kind of one of the burning issues in the community, and so, there was community members on both sides of that particular issue, and we had to bring in, it was before my time, but from my understanding, we had to bring in a mediator to kind of reach a consensus decision on that particular issue. And then some of the other changes were kind of part of the initial letter of intent way back in 2019 for initiating this community planning process. In addition to all those planning committee meetings, there's also all the noticing requirements that we have to do per the SLDC. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Nate, I've got a couple of questions. How did this, horses and stuff, people have horses and barns. How did this get into in the plan that you can have a barn 36 feet tall? Where did that come from?
That's a good question, and actually I don't know that question, an answer to that question, but I believe there are barns that are taller than the county's height standard for houses, so I'm assuming that's why. But
Interesting. And about horses and livestock, are they allowed in some of the smaller lots? Is there a prohibition against horses and livestock if somebody has a corral and has a couple of horses?
so, from my understanding, Chair, if it's horses or livestock for personal use, typically we would not regulate that. But if it's commercial use, there is specific standards based on the size of the stables or not. But typically, we have kind of a countywide agricultural overlay that allows people to, conduct agriculture on their property.
And the other question I had, did chickens ever come up in the discussions? Roosters especially?
No.
That's a problem. A lot of places, it's a problem.
Yeah, I believe it never came up in all the planning committee meetings I attended and led, but I hope, if there is a rooster issue, that can be raised in future times.
Okay, the other questions I have is, I drive that road, Bishop's Lodge, once in a while, and I notice there's a lot of rock walls, along the road that are very close to the road. And you have in your ordinance that in certain places you have to be 25 feet to build a wall from the center line of the road. In the other place, the Tesuque Village is 37 feet. Now, what about the walls that are there now? And then they mentioned something like opaque. I don't know the definition of opaque. I know what a masonry wall is, and I've seen the masonry walls there, but opaque is, I guess, something solid.
Yeah, so to answer opaque, that's already defined in the SLDC as incapable of transmitting light. So a rock wall that's, fully, has fully stuccoed and everything, that would be fully opaque. And then to answer your first part of your question, any existing wall is, considered a pre-existing wall. So if a part of the wall were to, have to be revised or reconstructed, they would have to build it in the same height and dimensions, anything like that. But if they were to completely remove a particular wall, then they would have to follow the new standards.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions of staff?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, oh, Rhea.
Thank you. Just quickly, and I'm sure this information might be located in the Tesuque Community Plan, which I have not gotten a chance to look at that completely. But I just wanted to get a sense of what I saw was there's two different zoning categories, residential community and traditional community. Could you tell me just approximately like how much of the area, the overlay zone area, is traditional community? Like what percentage approximately, and then what percentage is the traditional community?
Yeah, so I don't know exact percentages, but traditional community is only a specific area. It's on the Griego Hill, kind of to the east of the Tesuque Village Market. And then pretty much the rest of the valley proper than the district is residential community. Okay. So I don't know exact percentages, but that's approximately.
And then like in terms of population, is the majority of people then living in the residential community?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, do you know approximately how many people live in the traditional community?
I don't.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Nate. Do we have anybody from, this is a public hearing, do we have anybody from Tesuque willing to speak on the community plan?
I do. My name is Lynn Pickard, and I'm the co-chair of the Tesuque Valley Community Association, which is the CO that covers the Tesuque area. And I am here on behalf of the community to fully support this and to thank staff for all of the work that they did. We've been at this for 4 years. The main thing that was contentious was the fences and walls section. There was a group of people that wanted all the fences and walls torn down, and another group that wanted everybody to do whatever they wanted. And 3 people got together, one on each side and sort of a mediator, and the other people in the community sort of delegated to us, coming up with a compromise that we could build consensus around, and we did.
Well, thank you very much. I reviewed your plan, and it looks very, everything is stated in there, and I saw the uses that are prohibited. There's about 30 pages of uses, but it's very extensive.
We wanted to be a residential community with an area of commercial or 2 areas of commercial in limited areas. And in answer to your question as to how much community participation there were probably 50 or 60 people who were involved in the planning process. And then when the notice went out for the community meetings, after everything was written up, we had about 30 community members attend the Bishop's Lodge community meeting, and there were only a handful of people the next week online.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I do. My name is Jamie Gagan, and I live at 1476 Bishop's Lodge Road. and I've been at that address for 35 years, and I have been active in the last 4 years with this community association, and have been to many of the meetings, and we've had sometimes 10 or 15, and sometimes 60 people at these meetings. Robert Griego initially spearheaded it for us from the county, and I can attest to the diligence and thoroughness and collaboratively approached by all of the members in the community. Some people had been there for generations, some people had just moved here in the last couple of months or couple of years, but everybody worked really hard together to try to make it the best plan possible. We put many, many hours in this, and I'm really pleased with the way the document came out. And I actually personally have a garage pad that was built 13 years ago, and I have been waiting for this to be approved so I can finish my garage. So I am looking forward to the end of this project, but thank you for considering our plan. I think it's a very good document, and I was proud to participate in it.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? If not, I'll close the public hearing. And what are the wishes of the commission?
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
I move to approve the planning commission approval of the ordinance amending the Sustainable Land Development Code to amend section 9.5, the Suzuki Community District Overlay.
I'll second.
Thank you. Those in favor, any discussion on the motions? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Let's see, Nate, are you up again?
Yep.
Yes, ordinance 2024, the San Marcos Community District Overlay.
All right, hello again. So this is a similar overlay amendment, but for section 9.14 for the San Marcos Community District Overlay. So also on December 12th, we received BCC approval to publish title and general summary for this section. It's the same type of application type, both text amendment, zoning map amendment, as well as overlay zone. And our first hearing was in front of the hearing officer on January 11th. And the second hearing is in front of you today, and then we have a third and final one in front of the Board of County Commissioners in March. So back in 2019, the Board of County Commissioners adopted the San Marcos Community District Plan via Resolution 2019-133. From April to October 2023, staff coordinated with the San Marcos Community Planning Committee to develop the appropriate overlay amendments. The planning committee was always open to the public, and we regularly had 15 to approximately 30 attendees during that process. These amendments were based on the intentions and implementation strategies of the 2019 community plan in accordance with SLDC section 2.1.7. So since the 2019 plan was adopted, as well as you know, the county instituted commercial cannabis regulations via ordinance 2021-03, which stipulates that community district overlays can tailor commercial cannabis regulations for their community. Staff worked with a consultant to survey all property owners in the district with their sentiment on about their sentiment on commercial cannabis via mailers and digital outreach. We had about 194 responses, which is about 22.3% of identified property owners in the district, which is approximately a 6.2% margin of error. In the most relevant survey result, 69.1% and 73.3% of survey respondents felt that cannabis producers who cultivate plants indoors and outdoors should not be allowed in residential areas, while only 31% and about 26.7% of respondents felt those uses should be allowed or should be allowed with limitations. In the current code, outdoor cannabis grows are a conditional use permit in the rural residential zoning district, while indoor cannabis grows are prohibited. Based on these survey results, as well as discussions at planning committee meetings, staff in the planning committee developed the appropriate regulations for commercial cannabis and San Marcos. And I'll get to the particular section when I reach the summary. So in early October 2023, staff and the planning committee had 2 community meetings to inform the wider San Marcos community and garner additional public input. We had one at the Turquoise Trail Charter Schools, as well as an additional one online. And so the different amendments to Section 9.14 involve the revisions to the purpose section, including purpose and intent and purpose sections of every base zoning district. Second, minor technical and grammatical revisions. Third, removal of certain sustainable design standards, including the NM14 setbacks, the archaeological site setbacks, as well as water harvesting. Next, the addition of a new sustainable design standard to prohibit swimming pools. Fifth, amend dimensional standards for the rural fringe, and rural residential zoning districts, including the removal of the lot coverage standard and reverting the setbacks from front, rear, and side property lines to the county-wide setbacks. Sixth, revisions of the architectural design standards in the commercial neighborhood zoning district. Seventh, revisions of the home occupations table, including changes to the appointment/patron visits, as well as the heavy equipment standards. Eighth, addition of a new section to amend commercial cannabis use regulations, including the prohibition of cannabis grows indoors or outdoors in the rural residential zoning district. And you can view that new section in the red line version on page 9, and it's section 9.14.4.2. Ninth, to add and amend select use regulations in the use table and base zoning districts, including the addition of 4 new uses to the use table. First, tap or tasting room. Second, small-scale wind facilities. Third, independent artist, writer, or performer's studio. And fourth, animal and pet services. Additionally, we're amending the use regulations for a water treatment and purification facility in all base zoning districts. Next, we're adding use regulations for the following uses: compost facility, commercial greenhouse, crop production greenhouse, crop production outdoor, and nurseries and other growing of ornamental plants in all base zoning districts. Next, we're also adding use regulations for a movie ranch use in the rural and rural fringe zoning district. And finally, we're amending the use table zoning classification for the 31 following uses that you can see in the memo. And so staff recommends approval by the Planning Commission to favorably recommend the proposed ordinance to the Board of County Commissioners, and we stand for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions to staff? Eric?
Of course, Mr. Chair. Nate, I'm wondering if you can explain to me the water harvesting changes. If I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that in this overlay district, you're striking out the requirement to harvest water on new buildings above 1,500 square feet. Is that correct, or is it just you're removing any mention of water harvesting from the overlay, and then it would revert back to the county standard? I'm just trying to understand what happens there.
Yeah, so the second part of your question, essentially, we already have that particular water harvesting standard and for countywide, and so it's kind of duplicative. And
so this just eliminates the repeating of that requirement.
Yeah, correct.
Thank you so much.
Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Nate. So I was interested about the prohibition of swimming pools, and maybe get a little bit more background on how that came about. I saw in the record, I saw one objection by somebody about swimming pools. So could you speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, so that particular standard was identified in the 2019 community plan. And so based on that, specific implementation strategy in the 2019 community plan, in the San Marcos community, it's, a relatively water scarce community. And so, I wasn't personally involved in the development of the 2019 plan. It was before my time here, but, typically the way we implement the plan into the overlays, if the plan is, to have, just say, a new standard to prohibit swimming pools or, removal of the lot coverage standards, we then kind of translate that into the code language.
Thank you. I just appreciate that clarification. So it came about during the, earlier in 2019 with the plan itself for the area. No, Mr. Chair, just a rumination or a point. It's interesting that certain cannabis facilities are allowed. We just heard earlier, in an earlier case, a fellow who's going to use, for 200 plants, a gallon a day. You know, doing the math, that's like 73,000 gallons a year. It's kind of interesting because a small swimming pool, is probably 30,000 gallons. Okay, so I'm wondering, so I'm just curious, were these factors, were discussions or factors taken in consideration by staff when you look at other uses, for example, cannabis production and the micro businesses, and also car washes in the commercial neighborhood, the CN zone? So can you give a little more context as to why swimming pools per se, albeit with a medical excuse? And I have another follow-up question on that.
Yeah, so since it was before my time, I can't speak to why the community specified swimming pools over other water-intensive uses, but.
Okay. For the record, I would maintain that certain cannabis facilities would use way more than a swimming pool, depending on how the swimming pool is designed and constructed. And I would also maintain that car washes, depending on the nature of their construction, could be large users of water, particularly with many large vehicles in a setting like San Marcos with big pickup trucks and mud and everything like that. That being said, let's say somebody gets a waiver for treatment of a medical condition, which is proposed. How is that done? Is that an administrative review?
Roger, do you have any input on that?
Member Pava, my understanding is that that is in fact an administrative review. That is not something that needs to come before this commission or the BCC.
My follow-up, thank you. My follow-up and final question is, so somebody has a house out in San Marcos and they get a waiver and they have a pool, some kind of pool. The house gets sold. What happens then? Is there some way to, I mean, if we're de facto going to prohibit swimming pools, new swimming pools, I assume, not the ones that might exist, how do we handle that?
I'm not certain regarding the answer to that question, Member Pava. I don't think we could insist that that particular pool be removed in that situation, but honestly, whether the county would take steps to ensure that it is not used for recreational purposes is an uncertainty, because I don't believe we've faced that situation.
Thanks for the clarification. I was just pulling that thread and thinking about it. I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, but when you think about it, it's odd that you can allow cannabis businesses as conditional uses, but pools couldn't be conditional, which would therefore enable this commission to apply conditions such as a sunset if the property were sold or something like that. It's just interesting.
Thank you. Nate, I've got a couple of questions. I heard you mention something about greenhouses and cannabis harvest or growing. Is that something that they included in this community plan? Are greenhouses allowed for cannabis production?
Yeah, so Chair, an indoor cannabis grow, which would typically be in something like a greenhouse, in our proposed overlay amendments, it would be conditional in all of the zoning districts except for rural residential zoning district, where then it would be prohibited. But in addition to cannabis-specific greenhouses, the community wanted to regulate commercial greenhouses so that they're limited to a maximum of 5,000 square feet. And as this is largely stemming from a concern over, water use in that particular community.
The other question I have is, we had several cannabis applications come before us, and they were all outdoor growing areas because greenhouses were not allowed, or you couldn't even grow anything inside a house or anything. Now, will this adoption of this ordinance change that? And they come back and say, we want a covered area for a greenhouse for cannabis?
So Chair, so all the current applications that you've already approved are all, approved, they're, now will be considered non-conforming uses, and as long as a business continues, they can continue operation, but if they wanted to build a cannabis-specific greenhouse, they would not be allowed to per the new cannabis section.
You have to come in for a conditional use permit or a new application, is that what you're saying?
So it depends on the zoning district they're in, but if they are in the rural residential zoning district, they would not be allowed to have a cannabis have a cannabis grow in a greenhouse or outside of a greenhouse. But if they wanted to grow a different type of plant, whether flowers or vegetables, that would be allowed.
Okay, thank you. The other question I had is, you have the height for a hay barn or silo, 50 feet. Is that something that's realistic, or is that something that exists out there?
Chair, that was a current, as part of the existing overlay, and I'm honestly not sure that particular height standard, but wasn't identified as an issue during the planning process, and so if it didn't come up as an issue, we just kind of let it stand as the way it is.
Well, thank you. The other question I have is, a greenhouse has to be 500 feet from property lines. How realistic is that? Does it have to be a very large piece of property for a greenhouse to be 500 feet from the property line?
So to answer that question, that's only for the rural fringe zoning district, which is actually just one parcel in the San Marcos community. I think it's called Synergia Ranch. And that was just an existing setback that was already in the overlay, and it wasn't identified as a proposed change. And it is a pretty large piece of property, so it shouldn't be an issue. But that 500-foot setback is only for that specific parcel.
Well, thank you. Any other questions of staff? If not, this is a public hearing. Anybody from San Marcos willing to speak, step forward. State your name and address and be sworn in.
Yes, I do. My name is Elizabeth West, and I live in Santa Fe on 318 Center Street, Santa Fe, and I have property out where my family lives, south of town. And I married into a family that's lived in this area since the 40s. We're not in the new 40s, the old 40s. And I have seen a tremendous amount of change. That happens. I'm very impressed with the process that has been rounded up here toward the end. I've been intermittently part of it since I live out there part-time, and I have been intermittently part of it for a long period of time, and I've seen lots of different people involved, lots of ways of dealing with how we make a consensus or bring up discussions and have arguments and solve them. And I have to say that I'm really impressed in general with what we've all done. Did I get everything I wanted? Probably not. But did anybody? No. But a little bit like Tasuki, which you've heard about, people worked on it together. Unlike Tasuki, we don't have one center. We have a long, snaky turquoise trail, or Highway 14. And with the intersections of roads coming off of them, such as, for example, one right near me, County Road 44 and County Road 45, Shenandoah and Bonanza, there are other issues that are being brought up having to do with traffic impaction. And that has to be dealt with in another arena. So I've been following that too. And that's going to help us keep a fairly quiet, relatively speaking, quiet area. I am very impressed with the latest group of people who's come in over this long process to help us figure out what to do. And I'm speaking on my own behalf, but I am a board member of the San Marcos Association. I really appreciate Nate. He's sometimes called Nathaniel. I thought that was very formal. Nate and Brett and everybody on the team. I sometimes felt we were floundering a little bit, and when this new group came in and sort of refreshed how we were going to deal with each other, I was really wondering. It's been excellent, and excellent and very, very satisfactory on many levels. Doesn't mean it's perfect, but we're not aiming for perfection. And I'll be 80 this year, and I've lived here since 66, so I'm a newcomer, but I am very, very pleased with the process. So thank you very much. I think it's going to be an easy yes. I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Mr. Ireland, would you like to speak?
We haven't been here 3 years.
Oh.
Not much to say.
Fritz Ireland, 25 Longview Drive. We have a serious water issue out there, very serious water issue. And that's my main concern, frankly. I'm sorry, I didn't really prepare to come out and speak today. But when I hear about greenhouses and things like that, I get a little nervous. I don't really know what else to add. I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has about Lower 14. We live down off of 45, and a lot of people out there haul water. It's almost every week you see several trucks. Our neighbors haul water, and they fill their wells with water because their wells are dry. And we're fortunate where we live. We have a serviceable well, but I really feel, excuse me, I really feel sorry for the people that are having to haul their water every week. And that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you for your comments. They're well taken. If no one else is from the public ready to speak on this matter, what are the wishes of the commission?
Mr. Chair,
Yes. Well,
there are other viewers on the website, and we have a hand up.
Okay,
Cynthia Broshi.
okay. Welcome.
Hi, excuse me, am I unmuted now?
Ms. Brochi, I have to swear you in.
Yes.
Okay, sure.
You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth.
Yes.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Cynthia Broshi, and my address is 26 Red Raven Road, Santa Fe, 87508.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commission, for listening to the amendments that Nate has brought forth to you. I agree with what Elizabeth said, that the process has been really actually encouraging in terms of faith in public self-governance. I was part of the process that developed a San Marcos overlay starting in, I think, about 2015. And whenever I could, I attended the monthly meetings. It went on for about a year and a half. And so when that process ended, and very soon after the county started a new process, I was really skeptical, like, why is this happening? And did not participate in it for a while, but finally did in the past year. And I understand now why it was happening, because the through the efforts and the knowledge of the county staff, a much more inclusiveness of voice within this community, rather than just the 20 people or so who could make time in an evening to get together regularly. So there's been, the poll that Nate spoke of, and I think I heard in the public hearing officers meeting last month that at least 50 people took part in total in the in-person process. So I think it's been very well thought out, and I'm here to support all the amendments. I want to say a few specific things about the amendment regarding commercial cannabis growing, the CUP permits for that. My understanding is that those permits do not allow for well use for the commercial growth of cannabis, that the water needs to be hauled in. So that might answer one of the gentleman's concerns about why would it be allowed for cannabis but not for swimming pools, or at least it's pertinent information. However, the CUP permitting for commercial cannabis was a decision that was made by the Board of Commissioners when there was no opportunity for community input. It was during the pandemic, and the processes for our overlay district were halted during the pandemic. So it's only been, there have been at least 2, I don't know how many permits that have been granted for commercial cannabis growth in the rural residential portion of San Marcos, which is what I'm speaking of. And I understand that those are grandfathered in. So unless somehow people wanted to exert, your body wanted to exert new conditions, that will not happen for those. But I'm going to speak a little bit about one of those as a way to illustrate the damage that has been done to the community and distinctly to our rural residential community. This is a very, it's like a little crazy quilt. It's a very tight, if you look at the map, and the yellow is where the rural residential is. And you can see there's many smaller plots of land that are in close conjunction to one another. And as well, in our particular area, all the roads are community maintained or unmaintained. So, for instance, one of the permits was awarded to a property which has 6 other properties sharing border with it, 7 other properties in very close, almost sharing border or corner, and at least 3 to 5 of those are directly downwind from the westerly winds that predominate in the summer. So, things like property value and are a concern for people in this area. As well, the permit was awarded to a property which is on the highest geological formation in the entire area, which is primarily a wide open area. So there are 360 degrees views of that property. There's probably most of the 60 other plots that share the covered area with that particular property can see it. Again, affecting both lifestyle. You want to look at the moon, but you see a big cyclone fence instead, and also property values. And in terms of the roads, fragile roads, and there's approximately 33 properties that use the same roads that go up to this commercial now venue, which will be trucking in supposedly 4,000-gallon loads of water. I want to say this has also been a really, really trying, divisive action having these CUPs for our neighborhood. For instance, the person who has one of these permits now is my next door neighbor, and we for 11 years were really good neighbors. We always, very easily shared our road together and waved at each other, and we were honored to be invited to important family events, high school graduation, quinceañeras, etc. We've been really good friends with the kids and have, had the family over for dinner. And as well, we provided a lot of our professional services. We're in the healthcare. My husband and I are in have a small business in the healthcare profession. And we provided many, many hours of our professional services without fee. And we would do that again today or tomorrow. Our hearts and door are open to the family. However, ever since we began to participate in this public process, our neighbor decided we were the enemy. And it's been it's been since the public hearing officer meeting in May, he has not made eye contact with us when we pass each other on the road. He has not stopped to speak a word to us. And it's really kind of tragic. As well, this is, unfortunately, it's not just about personalities. We were informed by the staff that understandably they have a very small staff. And that the way to, address concerns is in these public meetings. And that's what we've done. But as well, we brought up the issue of a covenant, which 62 plots in our area have, that was notarized in 1980, that prohibits business use. And
Ma'am,
yeah,
thank you for your comments.
Okay.
We have to wrap it up. Thank you.
Can I finish just one sentence?
Yes, one thing.
Thank you. Some damage has been done, but this body has the opportunity to prevent further damage by passing all the amendments of the overlay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, Jose?
Yes, Mr. Chair, there's a couple of people just came up. We have Jimmy Shell.
Yes, hello, thank you. I'm a neighbor of Cynthia and of the existing.
Ma'am,
Can we swear you in?
you have to identify yourself and be sworn in.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I've never attended one of these meetings. I apologize. My name is Gemini Shell. I live at 20 Crazy Rabbit Road. It is very close to existing issues that we've had, but I know that's not the topic today. I just want to weigh in and say that we are for this change. We do not want any further development or business purposes out
You have to
here.
be sworn in. Ma'am,
Excuse
you
me?
have to be sworn in.
Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Go ahead.
You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, everybody. I don't need to repeat what I said, or do I? Do I need to repeat what I already said before the swearing in?
No, you don't.
Okay, so I just want to say that we are for this change. I don't know what it's even called, to be honest, but we are under the covenants that forbid development here in our area. And we are not wanting any further business developments or any further allowance for that. It's not part of our community here. It's, as Cynthia said, it's divisive, and it needs to not be allowed any further. It needs to be stopped. So thank you.
Thank you. Someone else will stand?
Mr. Chair, there's David Pittis.
David, you can speak and identify yourself and be sworn in. Name and address.
My name is David Pittis, 31B Red Raven Road, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87508.
Mr. Pittis, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So, I'm the person they're referring to when they say that a neighbor has a cannabis operation. And it's true that I'm grandfathered in. And I'm not here to speak about my operation or the personal difficulties in the neighborhood, which are far overblown. I'm here simply to represent the people in our community who grow cannabis. And I really challenge the idea that a small group of people can prohibit future cannabis growth. These people don't number over 40 individuals in a community of thousands. And I think that the survey is flawed, that they base this on. You know, when I went to the meetings, I noticed that, nobody was even under 50 years old. And the people I know in the cannabis community, they don't even know this is going on. So the idea that they've reached out satisfactorily to the community and done an accurate survey, I question. Now, most of these issues have been resolved in the conditional use permit. It's true that no one can use their well water to grow cannabis. But, here we have regulations that you're trying to approve to allow greenhouses in other kinds of plants. And I'm assuming that at least if they're not selling these things commercially, they can use their well water to have a greenhouse. So there's so many regulations in here that are so much more disruptive to the area environmentally than a small cannabis grow, because we're only talking about micro grows. My grow is only 50 by 70 feet. So it's not really that large. And much of these issues like smell and water and visibility, they're far overblown to the point of hysterical. And that cannabis should be singled out because of the hysterics associated with by pretty much old people who are living in the past, I think is not the job of this commission. It needs to be forward thinking and thinking about the potential business opportunities that are in this part of Santa Fe County and the young people who might benefit from this and their families. They are completely absent from these meetings. They don't have the time for it and they're not interested in it, unfortunately. So I'm here just to say that there are many, many people who support cannabis production under the rules that have been set up and which are very stringent by the county. And I think that, the state legalized it and said that people had to accommodate the production of cannabis. And yet, here we are trying to get a small group of elderly people to prohibit cannabis production. And I think that that's illegal and will just open up a can of worms of lawsuits. In addition to that, I feel that, the commission, or, that they should strike this one thing, though there is something else about swimming pools. Now, if people haul their own water for a swimming pool, why should it be prohibited? I mean, they can haul it for all kinds of things, including cannabis production. And a 30,000 gallon swimming pool is a pretty large swimming pool, I think, for most people that would have a swimming pool. So I think that those two things are inappropriate. Maybe there's conditions on them that they can't use well water, but if someone wants to pay the money to fill a swimming pool from bulk water or haul it themselves over several trips, then they should have the right to do so. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, David. Anyone else, Jose?
Yes, Mr. Chair, there's Uzi Brushi.
Uzi, here's Uzi.
Ms. Brucci, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you swear affirm to...
State your name for the record and name and address, and get sworn in, please.
My name is Uzi Broshi. I'm at 26 Red Raven Road.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I just want to say that I do support the revision of the San Marcos Community Overlay in order to restrict or prevent the further approval of cannabis farms. I do join my wife who spoke earlier in Gemini, and I think there's others who haven't really come. And to continue what my wife started to say is that we have also, in the 1980, for very specific reason to protect all of the residents in our area, there was a covenant that clearly restrict commercial use of commercial use of our road, and in order to protect the resident. And unfortunately, the county is ignoring this covenant and telling us that the only way for us to deal with it is in a courthouse. What the county doing is pitting neighbor against neighbor. This kind of it's not affecting our life in a small way. It's really upending our life in a fairly severe way, the way it's affecting us. And that's why we bring it up. So that's what we really want to prevent the further use of the courthouse. One answer that we got from a lawyer in a county was that the county is not responsible for covenant, which actually notarized by the county. However, the only way to resolve issues like that in a courthouse. It's not something that we like to do, and we really don't feel like neighbors should be pitted against neighbors. And that's very, so in own way, it's not an easy matter. It's a small, maybe farms that's going to be happen, but we all came here to live in a quiet. And when somebody decided after 11 years that we live here to decide to use a commercial farm, it is upending our life. It is changing the quality of our life. It's changing the value of our property. It's have a fairly severe effect on our life. So that's all I wanted to say. I thank you for your attention, and And thank you for all the process. I do commend you on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, next we have Louis Hawkins.
Who's this? What's his name?
Louis Hawkins.
Okay. Louis, can you state your name for the record, name and address, and get sworn in?
My name is Louis Hawkins. My address is 17 Red Raven Road, Santa Fe, 87508.
Mr. Hawkins, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth?
Yes,
Thank you.
I will be brief. Thank you for the time. I bought my property in 94, and started building my house in 95. I have 12 and a half acres of land, and I love it out here for the fact that there is plenty of room for everybody to share, but not be on top of each other. I like the covenants that I agreed to when I bought my property and built my house, part of which was no outside lighting so we could see the night sky, and there would be no commercial enterprise as part of the covenants. I am a medical marijuana patient. I have grown my own, but I have used collected rainwater. I have the ability to collect 5,000, although it's been going down over the last couple of years, but I still will do that. I am concerned about my value of my property. I put a lot into it, a lot of sweat equity, to say the least. And I am in support of this San Marcos overlay, and I don't think we need any kind of commercial enterprise. Even though I could sell my art from my house, I will not do that. I am not creating a business. I will take it to a gallery. So I am in support of this change and want our community to say the way it is, why we chose to live out here in the south side, out in the countryside. I would like to keep it that way. And thank you for your time. I appreciate your interest and your effort. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, next up is Karen Stoll.
Okay. Karen, state your name and address and be sworn in.
My name is Karen Stoll. I live at 46 Crazy Rabbit Road, Santa Fe, 87508.
Ms. Stoll, you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
I also live in the area which is covered by covenants, which say no commercial growing or no commercial enterprises. I'm happy with that. I am in favor of the change to prohibit additional permits for cannabis growing so as to keep our neighborhood and our area residential as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else will say?
Mr. Chair, yes, there is a Sherry Lee Spear.
What's her name?
Sherry Lee Spear.
Sherry, okay. Sherry, please state your name, address, and be sworn in.
Yes, my name is Shirley Vogt Spear. I live at 100 Pine West, 87508. And I understand I'm under oath. Okay. I just want to urge the commission to accept our hard work that we put in for this overlay. I've been involved in this process from the beginning with another group of the planning committee that were excellent also. And by the way, you should be very proud of your employees here that worked with us. They did a great job. I just want to say that there's been some remarks about that people weren't notified about this. They had no idea. This has been going on for years, the whole change for our overlay. And there's been notifications, there's posted at the fire department on 14 on the billboard. I had received mailings regarding the actual survey, regarding the cannabis survey. Not only did I receive a mailing and asking us to participate in the survey, I actually received follow-up postcards saying, reminding us that the survey was coming up and when the deadline was, and please contribute to that. So, and actually we have 2 properties here, and those postcards came to both properties. So I do think that the county did a good job of trying to get that out. Did everyone get one? Maybe not. I don't know, but I think property owners did, and I think that's also key. There's been remarks about other people didn't get a chance to contribute. I have to say, in those meetings, there were a large number of property owners here that participated. I also want to say that the restrictions are really, I think they're reasonable for rural residential area, the key part being residential. It's no different than we have restrictions, for example, of not having a slaughterhouse in the rural residential area. Also, I just want to say that the ordinance specifically says that the overlays have the right to determine whether cannabis, the business of cannabis is allowed in that particular overlay. So I just ask that we honor that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else will say?
Mr. Chair, there is no one else wishing to speak.
Okay, in that case, the public hearing is closed. What are the wishes of the commission?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve Planning Commission approval of ordinance amending the SLDC to amend section 9.14 San Marcos Community District Overlay as proposed.
Thank you. Do we have a second? If not, I will second Eric's motion. Do we have discussion on this motion? Dan, anybody? If not, what are the wishes of the commission? Yes, Dan?
Mr. Chair, if I might indulge the chair and my colleagues on the commission and Eric's motion, I'm wondering if I might propose a amendment to the motion.
Friendly amendment?
A friendly amendment to the motion.
Yes.
May I describe what that is then? Yes. I think it would, in essence, be changing the text in 9.14.2.4 to state that swimming pools are conditional use that are subject to review by criteria established by the Growth Management Department, something along those lines.
Okay, thank you. Eric, do you go along with that motion? Yeah, that amendment? That was conditional.
So I wonder if you could, could you repeat that one more time?
Yes, absolutely, Commissioner. If we look at page 2 of 19, on section 9.14.2.4, swimming pools, we would say construction of a swimming pool is a conditional use in the San Marcos Community District for residential properties, subject to criteria to be established by the Growth Management Department. And delete the medical condition, subsection 1.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll accept that friendly amendment. I think that's a good addition that eliminates the transfer confusion that you brought up earlier.
second.
Yes, and I will ask our attorney to comment on that, if I can get his attention. Yes, Roger, we had a friendly amendment. I wanted you to give us your opinion.
I'm sorry, I was in a different conversation for a moment, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
I know that. I saw you.
So you caught me.
We had an amendment, a friendly amendment by Mr. Pava about swimming pools.
Okay, and could you restate the friendly amendment?
Certainly. I can restate the motion as section 9.14.2.4, swimming pools, to change the text to read, construction of a swimming pool shall be a conditional use in the San Marcos Community District for residential properties, subject to criteria to be established by Growth Management Department staff.
The proposal is probably a little more subjective and leaves more to staff's discretion than we would typically like to see. Particularly since in this situation, there is already the existing ordinance discussing circumstances under which pools are permitted. Let's see. If you could think of a tighter way to present that friendly amendment, I think we'd feel more comfortable not including the subjective discretionary language, even a reference to the ordinance.
Mr. Chair, and I'm not sure if this is appropriate for discussion.
Go ahead.
I believe, during the open part of the hearing, Commissioner Pava brought up the very real possibility of a pool being permitted because of a medical condition. So a note from your doctor says you can have a swimming pool. And he raised a very real hypothetical that someone would sell that property or would pass it on to someone who did not have a medical condition. And so that raises a kind of future conundrum. If someone, because I'm thinking of all the confusion around new requirements that come in for the Airbnbs, and there's a lot of stuff that has happened that is no big deal until someone comes in and they want to run an Airbnb. And so I just think that having a condition like this that has an obvious bad loophole in it, it would be good to rectify. So can we say an above ground pool is allowed and it must be removed? If for the medical condition, is it possible to, rather than someone sink a lot of money into a hole in the ground, they can put a kiddie pool for their medical condition, and that would be, I don't know, and I'm sorry for rambling on, but I think this is a good idea to kind of close this gap. And so I would urge the attorney to help us tighten this.
Yes.
Okay. Again, I don't think we would be comfortable with language that requires an owner to remove a pool, particularly a built-in pool. And I have practical concerns with the suggestion of permitting above-ground pools, simply because I think pools that are used for health or medical purposes involve a lengthy swim. And the distance is probably important, and that's not going to be feasible in an above-ground pool. I think probably the best quick compromise that I'm thinking of at this point would be some sort of requirement that the medical need be reaffirmed on some sort of periodic basis, and perhaps a requirement that the pool be put out of use at such time as the medical need is no longer existing.
Is that an option, Mr. Pava?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In my experience, there are many things in many codes that are left to the discretion of the planning director or their delegee. And I'm wondering if this couldn't fall into that category, subject that the planning director's decision or the hearing examiner's decision certainly could be appealed to this body. And if the phraseology subject to criteria to be developed by the growth management department is too nebulous, then I would think it'd be incumbent upon staff to maybe bring back to this commission something that's more appropriate, if indeed this motion were to pass. I mean, our reason, one of our reasons for being here on the Planning Commission is to make a recommendation to the governing body, right? And that's what I see what we're trying to do here with deliberation. I'm not trying to be frivolous by any means. I just think that in deference to the long public process that obviously identified, at least some people were concerned with swimming pools. Now, there have to be swimming pools already pre-existing. And then you've got this issue of the medical waiver. And then you've got the issue of transfer of a property that has basically a windfall if the next person isn't medically subject to that. So that's why I brought this all up. And I guess I could say I would withdraw my friendly motion if these minutes will be reflected in what governing body, the council, will read, and I would make it a point saying that this body, the Planning Commission, had a concern about the swimming pools. Maybe they did, 'cause at least one other commissioner did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I certainly agree with this idea that all this body is doing is making a recommendation to the board, and as Commissioner Pava has stated, the minutes will be made available. There will be no written ruling or recommendation coming from this. It will simply be the minutes, so the discussion in and of itself will raise the issue, and for that reason, I also don't feel strongly that the friendly amendment not be considered, because ultimately the BCC will be aware of the issue, whether the friendly amendment is agreed to or not, and the BCC will ultimately make that decision. And between now and then, we will be able to look into the legalities of it more carefully.
Well, thank you.
And Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would recommend that staff try and recall the origins of 914-241, the medical condition, so that they can then present information to the governing body about the reason for that it was nice to have, or this was strongly considered. So I will, happily reject the friendly amendment if that's still my right to do that.
Yes, thank you. We have a motion and yes, Ria?
Comment also to include in the minutes with regards to the swimming pools. And, you know, I was not part of the planning process, and I have not reviewed the minutes with regards to all the discussion that went around this. But I would imagine there's been, you know, every case that we, not every case, but many of the cases that come before this commission, there's often, there's often the discussion around the impact on groundwater, or where water is going to come from. And, you know, certainly like with the cannabis issue, oftentimes we have applicants talking about hauling in water for cannabis growing and production. So similarly, you know, that area of this San Marcos overlay zoning district certainly, I'm sure, also has concerns about water usage and you know, swimming pools, you know, would impact, you know, groundwater if the water was coming from individual well. So just for the record, I wanted to also share that information and my opinion about that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. My comments are that swimming pools are very, very high maintenance. They're usable maybe 5 or 6 months a year, you know, from May until maybe September, October. They use a lot of energy, they use a lot of water, and a person that needs a medical pool, I would say that Santa Fe Community College has wonderful facilities, and it's a short drive. So, but anyway, we have a motion and a second. And what are the wishes of the commissions? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Are we voting on the amendment, or are we voting on the?
On the motions.
On the motion without the amendment?
Without the amendment, yes.
Thank you. Aye.
Aye. Andy? Ria? Yes? No?
Nay.
Do we have, can we have a roll call vote, Debbie? Yes.
May we please clarify what the question is at this point, for the sake of everybody understanding on the commission? What is the question before us?
Well, we took the advice of the attorney and mentioned that all this will be in the minutes, and this will be forwarded to the Board of County Commissioners. I think that was what.
And the vote, correct me if I'm wrong, please, and the vote is to approve the recommendation to amend the SLDC with the San Marcos Community Plan as presented to us. That's the motion as it stands. Thank you. So roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
Dan Pava.
Yes.
Wendy Gerard.
No.
No.
In this case, 3-2 vote, these amendments, I think, do we need 4 votes on this to be able to pass this?
No, again, because this is not formal action, this is simply
majority?
something that will go up in the way of a recommendation. It can go up as a 3-2 vote recommending.
Okay, so the vote is 3-2 in favor of the motion. Thank you. Thank you, Nate. Are you up again, Nate? No. We have, where's Brett? Oh. Okay, we request authorization of published title and general summary on ordinance 2023. Ordinance amending the Santa Fe County Sustainable Land Development Code. Ordinance 2016-9 to amend the SLDC, restate Section F, Santa Fe Community College District. Thank you.
Chair, Commissioners, thank you. Let me clarify that we are not asking for permission to publish entitled general summary. We're asking for a basically recommendation to BCC on this behalf. My name is Jordan Yetzi. I am the Building and Development Manager, filling in for Brett. He was unable to be here. Due to the recent increase in residential and commercial development located within the Santa Fe County Community College District along New Mexico Highway 14 and within the interior of Santa Fe County Sustainable Development Area 1, it has been determined that an amendment is required to the Sustainable Land Code to amend and restate Appendix F, Map 2, and Appendix C, Map 5 of the official map series of the Sustainable Land Development Code to identify a new proposed Santa Fe County trail route. That proposed route will start at the intersection of Rancho Viejo Boulevard in New Mexico 14 and will end at the NM 599 NMRX station. By integrating this proposed county rail route into the SLDC's official map series, the proposed trail would then be eligible to receive available carbon reduction program funds as well as other potential transportation program funds to allow for the design and construction of the trail. Some background on this: the new multi-use trail concept was originally proposed by the developers of a multifamily residential and commercial projects along New Mexico 14 corridor. The New Mexico 14 corridor here currently lacks the complete street design with no bike lanes or sidewalks to serve pedestrians or cyclists either heading to the 599 rail station or into town. Per the newly proposed installed infrastructure required to support the mixed-use employment center driven developments located within Santa Fe County Community College District along the New Mexico Highway 14 and with the interior of the Santa Fe County Sustainable Development Area 1. The county has agreed to work with the real estate developers and the New Mexico Department of Transportation to improve the existing multi-use trail network in the CCD and the proposed trail in a particular NMDOT has agreed to work with the county to offer trail easements along the right-of-way of NM14 and Fireplace Road. The developers have agreed to tie into the county's proposed multi-use trail to serve their multifamily developments. The new county multi-use trail will connect to the existing NMDOT multi-use trail at NM14 and Rancho Viejo Boulevard and extend to NM 599 rail station along NM14 and Fireplace Road. The proposed SLDC text amendment of Appendix F, Map 2, also necessitates amending Appendix C, Map 5 of the Sustainable Land Code. It is the county's and the public's interest to update both Appendix F, Map 2 and Appendix C, Map 5 of the Sustainable Land Development Code to ensure complete streets with the planned multifamily and commercial development in the CCD. The proposed trail alignment along NM14 and Fireplace Lane to New Mexico 599 Rail Runner will provide the opportunity to help reduce the carbon emissions while maintaining complete street goals with the Santa Fe County Community College District. This amendment to the SLDC is being requested in order to establish complete streets and promote walking, biking, and transit to the CCD and to ensure the multifamily developments have access to trails and public transport. Staff is recommending approval of the proposed ordinance amendment as outlined in the attached exhibits for this request.
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
This is the same trail that was proposed during the low.
Apartment complexes, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Thanks.
Eric?
Thank you. I just want to be clear that because this was noticed improperly on the agenda, it says it's to request approval to publish title in general, but we're actually recommending to the governing body. I just want to make sure that we're going to be solid on this. So, you know, if that said, I would move to approve it. I just want to get clear that we're doing what we should be doing. Thank you.
Mr. Attorney?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Abo, I think with the clarification that was presented at the commencement of his presentation, and given that this will again come up for authorization to publish, that this body can proceed with a recommendation.
Any questions of staff? If not, I've got some questions.
Okay.
How long is this trail? From Rancho Viejo Boulevard, you're talking about going to the Rail Runner Station?
Yes.
Now,
I don't know the exact length. I believe it's roughly 1.5 miles, 2 miles, I believe is what it was said at the last meeting.
Is this going to be a recreational trail, or is this going to be for the people that inhabit the affordable housing projects we've approved?
It is going to be a trail open to everybody.
What?
A trail open to everybody. It will not just be for the housing development in that area. It'll be a public trail.
Yes, that's what I'm concerned about. It's a long distance to walk in the wintertime. You know, there's very little transportation there. They don't have the blue buses there yet, I don't think. Maybe they go to the Rail Runner Station. The other thing is it what portion of this is going to be paid for by the developers? I know they wanted to develop a trail, but Santa Fe County decided it's in their purview to do this first.
I believe that on this trail, and I'll have to clarify and get you a better answer, but I believe most of this is going to be paid for through grants and other programs through the county, and then the developer is building trails that connect into this trail. So there'll be a complete trail system in the area.
Okay, I think those are the kind of the questions I have. You know, it's kind of a long trail to walk in the wintertime, but I support this, and I think if anybody in the public, or we have a public hearing, we close, thank you, staff. Is there anybody in the public that want to speak for or against this proposal? Nathan? State your name and be sworn in.
Yes. I do. My name is Nathan Manzanares. I'm with New Mexico Land Solutions, and we're located at 915 Mercer Street, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Mr. Chair Gonzalez, thank you. Fellow commissioners, county staff, thank you. Yeah, we've been working on this for a while. We initially started this as a developer-driven incentive, but with the help of staff and through a lot of work with Brett, I wish he was here tonight, but he's not. We were able to come up with a plan of attack to incorporate this into the county's trail system. That way this is provided to the entire community. There's already a vast trail system within the CCD, but this only expands it and also connects to some city trails that are a part of the overall Santa Fe area. So it's gonna be really a hub for biking, access to the Rail Runner, and provide the goals listed in the employment center of the CCD. We're doing workforce housing. This provides opportunities for people to reduce their carbon footprint by using the Rail Runner to access different parts of town or to use the bike trails that are in place. So thank you for your time, and yeah, it looks like it's gonna be a good trail and a good project overall.
Nathan, I've got some questions for you.
Yes, sir.
What part did you play in laying out this trail, the path of the trail?
Mr. Chair, it's been a collective effort ever since. I have to give credit to Mr. Robert Grego, former planning director. He was a big part of this. He helped see the overall vision of the trail network and the potential connection points. And we have a very experienced team of engineers and developers that have had success doing these type of joint efforts all throughout New Mexico. So it was, I can't take much credit. It was a team effort for sure.
The other question I have is, how long is this trail?
It's approximately a mile and a half. It runs through both affordable developments, so it'll basically start where the intersection, the light of Rancho Viejo Boulevard and 14 is. run along the NMDOT right-of-way, which actually is Fireplace Road as well, then connect to that decommissioned off-ramp that has already been built out to DOT back to the Rail Runner station. So,
Well, thank you very much.
no, thank you all, and thanks.
Anybody online, Jose?
Mr. Chair, there is no one online wishing to speak on this
Okay,
amendment.
we closed the public hearing. We're ready to have a motion on this ordinance. What are the wishes of the commission?
Well, I can start. I recommend that the commission approve this ordinance. I'm looking for the number. Oh, there's no number.
No number. Just an ordinance, 2024.
2024.
Yes.
To amend the Santa Fe County Sustainable Land Development Code. So I recommend we do that.
I will second that motion. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. The ayes have it. That brings us to petitions from the floor. Any petitions from the floor? I see none. Communications from the commission members? I hear none. Communications from the attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to remind members of the Planning Commission that tonight is Jose Larnaga's final evening with this body. I want to personally thank him for his assistance and guidance over the years, not just in these meetings, but he's been helpful in my education with respect to the SLDC and other matters. We will greatly miss him.
I want to second that, and I've known Jose for a lot of years, I think 20, 25 years. He's a neighbor of mine in Upper La Cienega, and he's done a wonderful job with Santa Fe County, and I think we're kind of at a loss at the Land Use Department when he leaves, because he's done a wonderful job. He's always communicated well with everybody, and I want to thank you on behalf of the commission for all your service, Jose, and you enjoy whatever you do in the next chapter of your life.
Thank you, Rogers. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners.
And I would just encourage you that you're welcome to come to any future meetings. I'm sure they'll save a seat for you.
And the next regular meeting is March 21st, 2024. And do we have a motion to adjourn? Thank you. We're